Have you ever heard of the Midnight Channel? They say it only comes on at midnight and only when it's raining.
Midnight Channel? That's just a rumor. Wait a second. I thought so. It's Persona 4. Like Persona 3, Persona 4 has the dramatic narrative of a console-style RPG with life sim elements you might find in a visual novel. Mastering the life sim part of the game is crucial because it allows you to increase your relationship level with other characters, making your party members stronger in battle. Now when I say life sim, what I mean is the game is simulating the life of a popular Japanese high schooler. You can make friends, join school clubs, work part-time jobs, and even date a hot teen idol, all while solving a supernatural murder mystery. The premise is that people are being mysteriously murdered in a rural country town whenever it gets foggy. The faces of the murder victims are connected to an urban legend called the Midnight Channel, which is a program that appears on TV when the unit is turned off, but only on nights when it is raining and only at midnight. You play the leader of a band of high schoolers who accidentally discover they can enter the world within the TV, where the people are being murdered. Naturally, you and your friends decide to save the victims and unravel the mystery behind who the killer is and why the Midnight Channel exists. The Mega 10 Persona games have always delved into Japanese urban legends, and this tradition continues in Persona 4. Throughout the story, you will need to enter the TV world the rest of your classmates. To achieve this, you have to convince them to accept the sides of themselves they hide from others, like this guy's confusion over his sexual orientation.
At last, I've penetrated the facility. These images are coming to you live from inside this steamy paradise. But I've yet to have any charming encounters.
And, well, this guy's just crazy. Yeah, okay, anyway, moving on. As I said before, the game has elements of a relationship sim, allowing you to build relationships with friends and even go on dates with girls. You can even hit on your preteen cousin, and if you're successful, by the end of the game she'll want to marry you. The presentation of the game is solid. The voice acting is terrific, and there is a substantial amount of it. The story is typical of the Mega 10 series with a heavy focus on the supernatural using modern-day technology as a conduit to harass the living. But what surprised me most with the game is how funny many of the story events were. Much of the game feels like you're watching a good high school sitcom. This is a great game. That said, Persona 4 does have some balance issues. On more than one occasion I've had my party wiped simply because the enemies used an attack that one-shot the main character at full health. Sometimes it's because the main character had a persona with a bad elemental alignment, but more often than not it's because the enemy used an area attack with an elemental alignment strong against one of my party characters, meaning it was 2 turns right off the bat. If all the enemies do the same thing, you're pretty much screwed. I'm pointing this out because this didn't happen just once, but dozens of times. Usually after I've spent a good half hour crawling around the dungeon only to die and lose all my progress. To be honest, if you wish to excel at the game, you'll be relying heavily on a strategy guide. You often get asked questions that, quite frankly, most people just don't know. For example, at one point in the game you get asked what the tallest mountain in the solar system is, which is Mount Olympus, a mountain on the planet Mars. How do I know this? I use a strategy guide. There's no freaking way I would otherwise know that. Some reviewers have applauded the game for questions like this, saying it adds a level of realism, but I have the opposite opinion. I think the system puts too much stress on the player. You get too worried about ensuring you answer all the questions correctly or pursue the right social links on the correct day to do them, and it makes it harder to just play the game and enjoy it. I'm just not a big fan of needing to map out my whole game experience before I even play the game. I mean, the choices are really just an illusion. There is only ever one right answer and the others are wrong answers because they're either worth less points or no points at all. So basically there's only one correct path in the game, and any other path you take is an inferior path that will lead you not being able to see everything the game has to offer. And the way to obtain the true ending of the game is not at all obvious. I'm not going to give it away, but you basically have to do the very opposite of what the game is telling you to do and what you've been taught to do the entire game. I understand this is part of the fog theme of the game, that you're supposed to be struggling to find the right path even though you can't see it. But I don't think it's the most appropriate way to handle something as important as the true ending of a game that takes 60 to 70 hours of playthrough. And in order to receive bonus stuff like secret weapons and the ultimate persona, you need to do a second playthrough of the game. I don't know. For some people that might be fun, but for me, I don't want to immediately play through a 70+ hour game just to get a few different weapons and fight 2 new bosses. And even though I didn't max all my social links on one playthrough, I don't have the desire to see the events with all those other characters. but it is totally possible to max all the social links in the game if you do everything correctly. Anyway, without a strategy guide for Persona 4, it is possible you might not spend your days properly and therefore be unable to save the people in TV land. The Persona fusing system is very complex to say the least. Basically, certain arcanas mixing together will create other arcanas, but the default level of the personas determines what the specific persona of that arcana will be. Leveling up the persona won't allow you to fuse higher level personas, only unlock new abilities which might transfer over to another persona during fusion. There are detailed FAQs on Persona fusion on Game FAQs, so I suggest reading them to fully understand the system. Be forewarned, it's pretty complex. In summary, Persona 4 is a great game that I really recommend, but only if you're okay with investing a lot more time into the game than one normally devotes to a single player game.
Hey, wait a second. You're not gonna do what I... Oh, you are. You shouldn't do that.